Welcome back to the Limitless Brave Show. I'm your host, Dave Stoltz. Today's guest is known as the attachment specialist. She has a master's in clinical psychology, which she paid for in full while working full-time. Very impressive. She helps couples and individuals heal their attachment systems. She's built 2 careers from the bottom up, all by herself. She's an artistic swimmer and surfer, and she's currently finishing a book on dating and working with your attachment style to find a relationship you actually enjoy. And she's healed her own attachment style despite past traumas. Welcome, Jacqueline Bush.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming over. This was a very interesting meeting where we met at the Japanese yakitori grill.
It's funny. My friends that whom I was with that night told me afterwards. They were like, "As you were talking about attachment style, the restaurant got really quiet, and then you leaned over at that point and said, 'Excuse me,' and then we started talking. It was just apropos for what they had said."
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's a popular topic, I think, right now. I think it's boiling to the surface, and people are very interested in it. So before we get into all the amazing things that you do and the work you do with men, I wanted to ask you, what was it like? Where did you grow up? What were you doing? What kind of led you onto this path? Like, what was it like in high school, college, all that?
You know, as you were giving my intro, it just made me think about my life in terms of, it makes a lot of sense what I do now. I've always been like a kind of pick yourself up by your bootstraps kind of girl. And like one of my biggest talents in life is being resourceful and figuring things out when I don't know how to do it. I want to do it. I'm going to focus. I'm going to figure it out. So I grew up, my father is, both my parents are American, but my father is by ethnicity half Egyptian, half American. And my mom's actually a white Mormon from Salt Lake City, Utah, and Odessa, Texas.
Okay.
And they met at BYU, but my dad ended up joining the military. And so I was born abroad in Europe, and I was raised half abroad, actually in Asia and in the US.
Oh, which part of Asia?
The Philippines. We spent 7 years there. Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm your go-to girl about Filipino culture.
All right, excellent.
And so I do think that kind of set the framework for, again, that kind of understanding that the world is full of possibility, and it's up to me to figure out how to do what I want to do, because I was exposed to so much. When I was young, I was always an athlete. I was a competitive gymnast. I was an alternate to the Philippine national team. And then I moved over to swimming, and I was a competitive swimmer. One of my coaches saw talent in me and wanted to train me for the Olympics, but the sports didn't bring me a lot of joy. But I always had this stubbornness, if you will, of whatever I want, I'm gonna go that way, and I'm gonna try it. My father was a really, obviously he was a military man and also Egyptian, so just culturally very disciplined.
Yeah.
And in a way, my mom from a religious background also had the same.
Sure.
And so I'm one of 4 children, and number 2 out of the 4.
Okay.
The original middle children everywhere I see you. And I feel your pain.
Well, I'm the oldest of 4, so I'll just back out on this, right?
I love oldest children because they like to take the responsibility, right? And sometimes become overburdened by it, overwhelmed by it.
Definitely.
And middle children, at least many that I know, and myself included, often went through the family feeling somewhat unseen. And of course, I have my older sister, she is 3 years older than me. My younger sister is 2 years younger than me. And then I have a younger brother who's 7 years younger. And we could just imagine the special treatment that young boy had. And he's very aware of it.
Yes.
But for me, I was the questioner. I was always the curious one. And that did not bode well in my family. My parents just didn't know how to handle it. And it was a lot of, don't be happy, don't be sad, just be quiet and you just do the thing. You go to the action, you make the good grades, you just do the thing, and there are no feelings. And when I had questions about things, just because I always wanted to kind of understand the way the world worked, or why I needed to do something, not that I had a problem with it, I just needed to understand it in order to wrap my head around it.
You and me both.
And here we are today.
Yes, exactly.
And now, right, in today's world, like you and I are around the same age, right? Unlike many of you young people who might be watching, there was no such thing as anxiety. It was just, you think too much, stop thinking. There was no such thing as neurodiversity, right? It was just, you're just a problem if you don't fit into this box. And there's certainly these newer concepts like intimacy, is a really new concept, really, in the way that we understand it now. Secure attachment, security, understanding that we need that connection with our feelings, with ourselves, in order to be secure. This didn't exist in our parents' generation, right? So I have real empathy for understanding that now. As a child, I didn't understand that. And so what my brain did, what all our brains do, is fill in the gaps around where things don't make sense or we don't get the full story. We're going to create the story in order to just have it make sense. And then throughout time, we repeat those stories consciously or unconsciously. And then that's how we recreate our reality.
And is that where we get cognitive bias?
Yeah.
Okay.
And none of us can get away from it, right? Like
No.
all humans, we have to have some predictors of reality. That's how we understand an apple is safe to eat, or the ocean is the ocean, right? Like there's some of that that's really good. And if you grow up with that kind of lack of attunement, it's going to cause either distrust issues within self of understanding or not knowing the difference between that toxic familiarity. So it might feel good because it's familiar, but might actually be toxic. Or something that's like, I like to call it uncomfortable growth, like healthy growth. I wasn't taught personally a lot around learning to tolerate my emotional experience, because it was like, don't have any emotions.
Oh, interesting.
Right? It was just, we just go through the action, like I said, right? And so that led to my own perception of reality. I wasn't aware of it at the time. I was always kind of a believer I could have what I want. And unconsciously, there's something you learn about when you go to grad school. It's we call them risk factors and protective factors. And the risk factors are all those things against you that are going to be obstacles in your path. And then they're going to be protective factors. How attuned, not how loved, but how attuned your parents were to you is a protective factor. Growing up, not poor, right? Having enough to eat, shelter over your head, that's going to be a protective factor. Trauma, whether it's maybe it could even be chronic illness, a parent sick growing up, or maybe loss of somebody in the family. Those are going to be risk factors that are going to throw your body into more insecure attachment or secure attachment. And so we all have like that blending of that. And for me, growing up, I had my own blending of that. There was not a strong understanding of emotions or how to tolerate them. And yet I got a lot of good discipline around what to do in life in a certain way. So I had some really good a skill set in place around being responsible and taking care of myself in that way. And it also kind of set the framework for identifying somehow as the problem child when I didn't understand this at the time, when there were things that were unpredictable in nature. And that could be really anything, right? Because most things are unpredictable.
Yep.
So especially around relationships, or let's say a job doesn't work out, my go-to would be blame self. Other people get the messages blame outside, right? Both of those are actually most likely imbalanced perspectives, right? Because there's usually the recipe of the soup and all the ingredients go into it. It's not just one or the other. So that kind of set the framework for, on one hand, my dad actually, he used to call, and I hated it when he did this, he would say, the Bush family luck, which would be bad luck. And I was always like, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm a very lucky individual. And so I had this rebellious spirit that, served me in some ways and hurt me in others. And so some of that rebellious nature like led to like a life of adventure and risks that served me really well career-wise, and risks that served me really poorly romantically wise.
Interesting.
That's where I didn't, I had suffered some trauma, like kind of early on in my 20s around dating and relationships. And what I didn't understand at the time is that self-blame piece kicked in. And it was a very different time in the world. We didn't understand trauma the way we understand it now. So it wasn't dealt with, even though I was seeing a therapist, it wasn't dealt with in the way it really needed to be held and processed.
So the psychology side of therapy hadn't caught up to what was going on at that point.
No, I mean, nowadays, the newer research, like, the kind of leaders, in my opinion, around trauma, Bessel van der Kolk, Richard Schwartz, who developed IFS, Gabor Mate, I mean, these guys are amazing. And their perspective is really, most things in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistic Manual, are really, like, they're products of trauma. Now we know nowadays that, I think it was 2013, don't quote me on the year, but Emory did this study where they trained rats to fear the scent of cherry blossoms on cherry trees.
Okay.
Have you heard this study before?
No, I haven't. This is interesting.
Epigenetics. And so what happens when the rats bred offspring, the offspring were immediately scared of the scent of cherries. Cherry blossoms. So that's how fast what we're experiencing right now is transmuted onto our DNA.
Just one generation. Because, people are like, epigenetics, not true, this and that. And I'm like,
oh, now so much research is showing it absolutely.
Yes, it is, actually. And I can see it when I work with my clients.
Yeah.
Like, start asking about the past, the family, the mom, the dad. Oh, yeah, it was chaotic when I was being born. I'm like, okay, well, that explains a lot.
Exactly. And on the one hand, we humans are so resilient and brave.
Yeah.
Who is it? Sometimes it's I forget who it was, that famous author said sometimes it's a mere act of courage just to choose to live in the world.
This is true.
Right? And while we have that resiliency, on the other hand, we humans are also so sensitive. And sometimes what looks so small, even just, for example, mother, maybe at the time of pregnancy, had a lot of chaos in life that had nothing to do with you, but those things can just be the straw that break the camel's back, that creates more obstacles or more risk factors in favor of insecure attachment. Right,
Okay.
which I know you want to get into later.
Yeah, I definitely want to. With the epigenetics, since you brought that up, is the experience being imprinted in the DNA code?
Yes.
Or is
Yes.
it going into the undeveloped subconscious mind at that point?
Well, it goes hand in hand, right?
Okay.
But the way it was explained to me is that basically our helix is like this, right? And for markers for, let's say, like mental health stuff. And what happens is stress hits the marker, hits the marker, hits the marker. And over time, the marker becomes weak and all of a sudden, boom, it goes on. The diagnosis happens, right? The symptoms are expressed after we receive enough of those risk factors, the stresses that can turn it on, right? So that whole idea of, genetic predisposition, it's not like that's not true. It's just that now they're able to quantify research, so we have more evidence, right? Because we're able to understand how to measure the stuff in order to have the results that show that these are also factors at play, like our emotional experience, how it affects our DNA, stressors that come. It's not just one or the other, it's another factor, right?
Yeah.
How big are those factors are going to increase your chances.
Interesting.
So it's like both. It's like which came first, the chicken or the egg. Like both are true. It's not one or the other. It's just all of this stuff hasn't really, it's been compartmentalized. And when in fact, it's all interconnected, right? Because we're not compartmentalized beings, right?
No,
That's not
no,
the act of
definitely
being
not.
human.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Okay. And then have they done research back toward the parents of the parents? Like grandparents, great-grandparents, and are they able to map the stressors, the traumas traveling generation to generation?
I'm unclear on exactly what that looks like. I just have more of like, I'm more schooled in like a general philosophy of it, but or understanding of it. But the guys to look into, like Bessel has a book out there, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes,
That's
a good
very
one.
well known. Yeah. And Gabor Mate has another one, When the Body Says No. So I know some research has been done. I just don't know to what extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of had this experience through middle school into high school. When were you competing swimming and gymnastics? Was that high school time or?
No, that started when I was very young. Now I understand I love being an athlete, actually. It's such a stress reliever.
Totally.
I'm a big believer in incorporating our bodies, even if they feel like unsafe places. That's a place to start, to learn to connect to the body, create the sense of safety. And if you're dealing with the fact that your body doesn't feel safe, we got to start there, because we're in these containers. No one can get away from that. Right? No matter how many psychedelics you do, you still have to come off the high and be in this body. And we're meant to be here with all our inhibitors in place. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them in the brain. My dad was always really big into sports, so he always had us in sports. And he had a natural aptitude for sports, and so did I. But I never wanted to do the ones he chose for me.
I think he probably had a different idea for you.
Different opinions of what sports were. And I always like to share the other side of the story, because at the time when you're growing up, right, as children, we're all narcissistic, as children are supposed to be, right? The world revolves around you. You only see things from your perspective. And it took me a long time and an undoing of my own story and really nurturing myself to feel into, not just intellectually understand, but emotionally connect to my dad with the poor skill set he was given around emotional connecting, right? He didn't give me that because no one ever taught him that.
Yeah.
And also, he was just busy surviving in the world, as was my mom. But his way with sports, those were his favorite memories with his fathers. When his father used to train him in swimming, I hated that. I was like, I just wanted to go play with my friends in the pool. But for him, that was that moment of connection. So he actually experienced it, as rejection. And now I can understand that. And also, it's not the child's job, right, to care for the parent, but to fill out that story of understanding of the intention was good.
Yes.
And I think that's the important part about all this stuff is we can have good intent, and we need to learn to be effective and efficient, just like with sports, right? I mean, we all think we're, Kelly Slater, if you're a surfer in your head, until you see some footage and you're like,
you're like, yeah,
exactly. Maybe next time. Never.
It's a humbling experience when the camera comes out.
Exactly. So both are important, right? To have the understanding and the wider perspective, as well as what your experience is going through it. Both of those things are true. So he raised me to be an athlete, and I wanted to dance and do sports that I felt more connected to, and that just wasn't really that was not serious athletics.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And I stepped away from sports. I was always big on moving my body, and I'd been into yoga for many years. But then when I took a surf trip in Costa Rica when I was, in my 20s. And I think I had dated a surfer or two, and I was like, I'll just try that thing. And I broke my toe the week before I was supposed to go to Costa Rica. And so that toe healed during my trip. I finally get out there, start surfing. I meet this fellow traveler. It's a dude, and he cannot get up at all. And I'm getting up on everything. And my coach is like, you can really be good. And I was like, I know, I'm feeling it too. I wake up the next day on the wrong side of the bed, feeling grumpy. I go out in the surf, and I break another toe.
Really?
On the other foot. It's like, oops. A little subconscious sabotage, perhaps.
Yeah.
A little. At the time, I didn't think about it, maybe even until now, that there was that body keeping the score of it feels scary to get good at something that I had trauma around, right? That wasn't processed.
Yeah. Dave here with the Limitless Brave Show. And gentlemen, this one's for you. Are you struggling with your dating life or maybe your relationships? Possibly the marriage is on the rocks. Maybe you're having a difficult time making money. What about your health? Is that good or is it in poor repair? And maybe you've tried everything you know how to do to climb that corporate ladder, but you're still not getting anywhere. Or if you're finished with the corporate world, you've been hesitant on starting that new business. Or maybe you just do not feel confident taking on one of the most unique roles we have as men, and that is being the protector. Guys, for the past 15 years as my full-time career, I've been coaching men all over the world on those topics and how to rise above everything that's holding them back to get that amazing dream life. I've been helping men understand the art of living masculine for a very long time, and I would love to help you. I have a very simple, nurturing, zero to hero philosophy when it comes to working with me. It's not anything difficult. It's not anything hard. It's not abusive. It's just common knowledge that I love to share with men to get their minds switched on in the right direction so that they can go out and live an amazing life that every man should. You want to know more about this? Check me out at limitlessbrave.com. Get signed up to my email list, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
So do you think it was the trauma of swimming and swimming, kind of swimming being forced on you from your dad, and now you're in the ocean, kind of wanting to do this thing for yourself, but there's that subconscious memory of that and like not really liking the water?
It's I love the water. I'm a water person, but the idea that I could be good at something, because it's all what comes with having to be good. Well, that means you have to train a lot. You have to do all the, and I think it, not consciously, not from my secure brain at all, but that body keeping the score of just, right, the fear was like, now I'm going to get tight. And I wasn't aware of it at all at the time until, I mean, really just now, as I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Which I can feel in my body that feels right. Like there is a tightness around it that was there, kind of like, is this, I got to keep my fists up and protect myself a little. And so I did, and I broke a toe.
I have run into that many times in my sports, the same experience of feeling the fear underneath, but still doing it, trying to fight through. And the next thing you know, something's broken.
You look at, you're making me think about Simone Biles, and I watched the documentary on her recently, and I had heard about, this actually happened to me in gymnastics as well. Why I quit gymnastics was I was having to do more and more advanced moves, and I was really scared. And I lost the ability to do anything going backwards at all. I couldn't even do a backwards roll. Like anything going backwards, I just couldn't, just total freeze. She said for herself, she could still do it, but she lost her sense of where she was mid-flight when she was doing the flips. I think she calls it the twisties. And I had that same experience. But again, I didn't connect it to I was very young, I didn't connect it, I must have been like 10 or 11 when I stopped doing it, to the fact that I was actually really scared. And slowly it came back, but I didn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, the body will tell you what your mind does not want to tell you. What your mind got very good at protecting you from, your body will express.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. I have had that exact same experience.
This is why I love being an athlete and connecting with body in this way, because we can't get away from this, right? And it's showing us, like many times in my life, I've had physical ailments where it doesn't mean it's the whole factor. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? Like that recipe, right? Is it the missing ingredient? Is it the whole thing? It really depends, because life is fluid. But this factor of understanding how our bodies are connected to our experience is really important, because I'm always saying to my clients, our bodies went through everything our minds went through. And sometimes it's easy to forget that this right arm actually also went through everything and might be even holding itself in a particular position as I walk through the world as a way of just protecting myself.
Yeah.
or of just learning to get on. Like maybe I just learned it was a little easier to hold my right shoulder in, and that felt a little more comfortable. And then over time, that just becomes the way it is. And then it creates injury.
I had the same thing on my shoulders. Like one sits higher than the other, and I'm like, why is this? And so I haven't thought of it that deeply, but that's really interesting you say that. Now, from an injury perspective, I know my body is shifting and compensating and still storing things. To your point about the body remembering what it went through, I actually worked with a lady who's kind of like a somatic therapist as well. And I didn't tell her that my ankles were broken. She starts working on me. She's like, oh, you got injured here. I'm like, okay. I'm laying there. I'm like, yeah. She's like, what happened? I was like, well, I broke my ankle. She's like, did you do this when you were really young? And like now I'm like freaking out. I'm like, how do you know this? And she just keeps going in further and further. Next thing I know, as she's working on me, I'm that 13-year-old boy with the broken ankle again, processing it out, crying, freaking out. As a grown man, I'm like, this is nuts. It was really, really cool.
And that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do is just process it.
Yep. Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I'm assuming you've had similar experience with some of your clients.
Absolutely. Because again, that body is always giving us messages, right? Like what I said before, what we're suppressing in our minds. For example, one time I had been in a relationship that I was very unhappy in, but I didn't know how to have a voice for myself, and I couldn't leave, and I couldn't leave because honestly because of my past traumas. And what happens in the brain is when we have enough trauma, the need for any kind of connection trumps the separation, because that feeling of abandonment and pain is so much stronger than the feeling of staying. So body will stay.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing, and was not happy. And I actually ended up, I got a burst cyst inside my body, and I had to go to the ER. And let me tell you, when that relationship ended, so did those burst cysts. Yeah, never again. And I had 2 while I was in the relationship. Yeah. And for the record, I'll say I also found out that for me, caffeine was also a contributing factor. So that was another piece of that puzzle. So I always like to say, like, multiple factors. We want to look at like our brains and our bodies like in a comprehensive way, not either or.
Yeah, and when you think about it, a lot of science and doctors talk about them separately.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but they're not. They're not at all.
They're all together.
They're all together. Okay. This is good stuff. I want to kind of get back into college, and like, because you took yourself through college, you took yourself through grad school. What were you doing? How were you getting yourself through school? Because I did the same thing.
Oh, you went, okay. So just for the record, my father had saved up enough for college, so I didn't have to pay for that. I did find some scholarships.
Okay, good.
Which I just, at the time, like, again, I was always resourceful. So I was like, well, there's got to be some out there for me. I don't know. As a white woman, I did. I found a few. I found like a few $1,000s worth of, small scholarships. All I did was just like, look, right? Like just take that action and look. Because my dad basically said, well, this is how much money you have. That's it. And if it's all up to you. So because I was always kind of feeling abandoned by him, I just believed him 100%. I don't know if it was true or not, but I thought there is no other option for me, so I better figure it out. Thanks for that wound.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I have a wonderful relationship with my parents today, which was hard won.
Yeah.
Hard won. I worked a lot at it.
I can say the same thing. I would say that it was never a really bad relationship, but like kind of what you were talking about before with the epigenetics and like parents having their own way of bonding with you and not knowing that as a young adult. Yeah, I went through the same kind of thing, and like I had some epiphany one day. I was like, oh, they're just trying to like be good people, and this is how they showed me that they loved me.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, and I was like, why couldn't I see this before?
because your brain had more bandwidth and connection for safety that it could allow for. And that's what happens with us as adults, right? Like even going back to your own experience, how you mentioned when you're in that fear state when you're doing sports. And the fear state, just tsunamis in, takes over the show. There's not much room for much else. And when we're having that, our brains are actually in a state of disorganization. So whenever we're having that brain rigidity, so just fear, that's all I can see, that means the brain is actually in a state of disorganization. So sometimes just even knowing that can help us kind of get back online of, oh, okay, what am I missing here? Because that fear might be running the show. The answer isn't to suppress the fear. Like that's where we go wrong. It's more like, okay, this is happening. Like really good athletes, it's how they're just attuning to their circumstances. They're not ignoring it. They might just not indulge in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like acknowledging, hey, you're here, but we're still going to move forward, and I'm going to keep an eye on you. Is that kind of
exactly, which is attunement.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. This is how we're going to make it through, and we're going to keep calm. We're going to basically, I always like to use a lot of athlete analogies.
I love it. I love it.
It's high performance. You see, it's very, very similar. Like the stuff isn't really like, it's not rocket science. It's quite simple when you break it down. And if you look at any athlete who performs really well, they're able to like shake things off, right? They have that flexible brain, and they have a very strong sense of the ability to attune to and support inner state while they're in highly stressful situations. That's what we have to learn to do with ourselves.
So I have a question on that. Based on what you're saying, myself included, and I know other guys that I hang out with, the more chaotic the situation is, the more they're hyper-focused and clear on what it is. If there's no stress, they're like, whatever.
Clear what is? Just
as like clear as in what to do and actions to take, the stress like melts away.
So the more chaos and stress, the more that they're able to be clear.
To be clear and calm and focused.
Okay, so here's another part. just throwing this in there. For the anxious side of ourselves, which all of us have anxiety, not all anxiety is bad. Anxiety causes us to care for ourselves and feed ourselves and drink water and get sleep, right? Because you will feel better, right? Like that is a form of anxiety from a scientific perspective.
I would say that's a healthy anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Which is important to note, right? Because we think anxiety, bad. Most of us are like, that's bad. I don't want to be anxious. Well, you don't want to just roll around and think nothing in the world because you do need to survive. Right?
Exactly.
We all have to, or not, but that would be a choice. And sometimes that might not even feel like a choice, but that's a different conversation. Going back to this anxious side of ourselves, we all, growing up and through life, depending on what happens to us, have what we call window of tolerance. And that window of tolerance applies to many different emotions. And one of the core emotions is joy. And if we're in a state of joy, which could be ease, relaxation, not too much happening, that can subtly create distress within the system that says, I don't, and again, it's not conscious, saying, I don't know how to respond, but it can create a sense of overwhelm and not knowing, must be on guard. I don't know enough about each of these men, but I wonder, like, did they grow up in a fair amount of chaos? Like maybe that's where they learn to thrive. Like people who have ADHD, for example, oftentimes like they can thrive under pressure.
Okay. What does ADD?
The same thing. It's ADHD.
Okay. I got that diagnosis when I was younger.
Oh. Well, the pressure in that way can force that hyper focus, right?
Okay.
Some people freeze under those circumstances.
Yes. Very, very true. Yes. I see that more than I see what we're talking about currently. I see people freeze more than like, oh, here's my clear path. I know what to do.
Really depends on, right, that tolerance for joy. That, again, ADHD is a product of trauma. Not all of it might be in this lifetime.
Oh,
it's a
really?
response.
Okay.
It's a depressive response, actually. And brain oftentimes doesn't know, is overwhelmed and can be in the daily life function and what I've noticed with the people I've worked with who've had ADD or ADHD is that underlying can be it's very subtle, but even a sense of guilt for ease and focus in not extreme circumstances, because that brain, remember, there are physical responses happening, like looking for that dopamine hit, which gives a larger feeling, right? And the body has become, I don't like that word addicted, but habituated to that's what I need to feel, this thing, this loud thing, in order for me to respond, right? So most likely the brain became basically an expert at this.
Okay.
Right? Which I always say, we don't want to take away from the good. Like if something's in the good part, we want to keep that. You don't have to worry about that. That's like the right bicep over there, you're working, but you've got this perfectly good arm. We just need to use it as well. And that's going to feel really uncomfortable as you start to build strength in this, but you don't just not do anything with the right arm. You still need to balance the body. It's not just avoid the right arm and just use the left. It's more like, how are we incorporating both sides? And again, like back to the athletics, what I like about it is that side of discipline, integrating, understanding what do I really need to thrive and create like a sense of strength within.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. That makes total sense. Everything you just said to me, I'm like, oh yeah. Like I know exactly what you're talking about.
I have a question for you. Because as I was saying all that, and I was like, for a long time, I actually had a kind of unhealthy relationship with my body and like food and exercise. And I'm just thinking like the compartmentalized way I used to view it. It wasn't always the way I see it now as all systems go. And I was just curious for you.
It was a very similar experience. Not a good relationship with the body, even still current day. I work out like a maniac, still not totally happy with everything. I do have like gut issues that are causing part of the problem, but I kind of gotten over that and it's gotten better. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like I wasn't feeling good about myself, in general. And so, yeah, causing all of these things to happen.
Right. It's all that, the way you described it was expressed exactly this concept of, right, all those different factors. It's not just feeling good about yourself, or that you can't quite separate them out individually. It's all how are the systems working as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, Dave here with the Limitless Brave Show. I hope you've been enjoying the show as much as I have been enjoying making it for you. And I want to introduce our next guest. And this guest is doing some amazing stuff in the world. Please welcome Woobies. Now, I've recently partnered with this company because of their incredible mission. Their mission is to put a pair of Woobies on every homeless vet's feet. That's a huge mission, and it's one I can get behind. So guys, if you go and purchase a pair of Woobies, a homeless vet's gonna get a pair of shoes for free. And we need to help out our vets because they put their life on the line so that we can live in this incredible country. And so I was very curious about this company. I flew down to Dallas, Texas, where their headquarters is. I spent the day with the CEO, and let me tell you, these guys are on point. And not only that, it's a veteran-owned company. So it's veterans helping veterans. What an awesome mission. So these are the Mod 2s, and this is the high top version. They also make a low top version. These shoes can be worn on land and in the water. This is the official shoe of Naval Special Operations Dive School. Guys, if Special Operations is using this shoe, you can too. And so I took my Woobies to New York City recently, to Washington, D.C., and around Los Angeles. And let me tell you, they were comfortable right out of the box and something that I enjoyed wearing. They have a true paracord shoelace and a certified non-slip sole. So if you need a certified non-slip sole for your work, these are the shoes. And this is a canvas upper, and it breathes and dries really quick. So if you're in and out of the water, like I am when I'm diving, these things are awesome. They have a lot of different colorways for you to check out. So please go support their mission at woobies.com. Yeah, I definitely went through that when I was younger.
Yeah.
When I was younger, like high schoolish. age? Is that pretty typical?
I mean, I like to stay away from typical, but I think, body issues for men, women, non-binary folks, I mean, across the board, oftentimes if you look at like gay men and straight women, like the issues can be very similar, like, right, like pressure upon looks, right? Because like that's how they're tending to like been taught to value themselves through the world. But I see like in the eating disordered community, like a lot of males have disordered eating, or like we live in LA, orthorexia, especially on the west side of Los Angeles. Yeah, it's a thing here, but it's widely accepted as it's okay. Or like eating disorders are coming from the place of really difficulty feeling the feelings, right? Like deep down, that's boiling down to the same issue. The root is I've got to learn to be with like my discomfort, whether I'm feeling abandoned or angry, and if it's under eating or overeating or orthorexia, which is like that addiction to like being healthy. The body looks the part, but actually, am I healthy? What's my relationship to my body? All of these things are ways, right, to control, right? Even if you look at like binge eating, for example, I love to talk about this with clients. It's always like, I'm totally fine. I want a pan full of brownies, not one or three, a panful, but I feel totally fine. It's like, well, have you had enough carbs today? Maybe not, right? The brain needs glucose. Also, you might be in some distress, but the body doesn't necessarily clock it as distress, right? So sometimes we can, we're using body or food or lack of food in order to control. Or like if you've ever followed a diet and then you fall off the diet, and then you binge or have a lot of food, and then you're like, oh, like it's so sexy in the brain. You're like, tomorrow I'm just gonna like do it all perfectly, like, oh yeah, like, and you can just feel the excitement. I can feel it even now in my body. I know that feeling of just, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I have the exact plan, and all's gonna go according to that plan, which never
ever in a million years goes that way.
Even if it goes that way for a few months, at some point, people fall off of it. And that's because, right, we're looking to control and suppress those deeper feelings of discomfort, right? Which might just be, I feel powerless, or I feel scared, right? Then men are not allowed to feel scared.
Yeah, and I think it was a combination of that for me personally. And then when I was a young boy, I had really bad asthma, and I couldn't run, I couldn't be athletic, and I wanted to be. Like in elementary school and middle school, we had all these like standardized tests that we had to take for athletics. I couldn't pass any of them, and like all my friends are running and doing things and playing sports, and like I couldn't. And so I think that's maybe where it started, where I started like hating my body because it wasn't performing.
Totally, and especially you think, I have empathy for men and women and non-binary. It looks different, but in your particular story, I hear, the messaging, like, I don't know if you're following the Olympics, but...
I haven't had much time, but I've seen some good stuff.
Gosh, I love the Olympics. That guy, that gymnast, pommel horse guy, Steven, I forgot his last name, but he wears glasses.
Okay.
And I love social media when it's in regards to stuff like this. You can really stay on top of all the important Olympic news. And there are these, his video went viral. He's this, I forget what he does, but he's what some would consider a nerd. And he wears glasses, and his teammates, he just does the pommel horse, okay? And his teammates are all celebrating or cheering something, and he's back there just sitting close to that with his glasses.
I saw him. Yes.
And then he goes up to the pommel horse, looks at it, takes off the glasses, and does this incredible routine that gets the U.S. the bronze for the first time in years. And it was like, all nerds everywhere were like, Steve, pommel horse guy. So many of us identified with him of, just being this like not fitting the status quo or looking the certain way. And he was just really he was so embodied. He was very proud of doing the Rubik's Cube. Like beforehand, he was like talking about how fast he solved the Rubik's Cube. Like while he's at the Olympics, he's like, He was like, I did it in this amount of seconds. It was amazing. And like, I was thinking, of course he took the world by storm, because that's how like so many of us identify as not quite fitting in, and to see like, oh, you can still reach your potential. And that's what I love about these like athlete metaphors.
Yes.
And so back to this concept of men and how you spoke about your upbringing, the world has changed some, but men are supposed to be powerful, right? They're supposed to be strong. And of course, some of that has changed, but it's like, well, then you might be like the artist or like it's still putting people in boxes. Well, now I have to rebel because I can't do this thing, right? Which is still like, it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not. And it's interesting you said about the boxes, because I went through that too. Like I loved my athletics, but I also loved my art. And I'm like, oh, I have to choose one. I had this idea that I had to choose one. And it wasn't until I had this amazing college professor in figure study class. And he was like, what are you talking about? Why do you have to choose one? He's like, I love football and I play football and I am a great artist too. And I was like, oh, I could do two things? I was like, okay. So I was excited about being able to pursue that path of art and arts and culture, and then also do my sports, which was really awesome for me. Yeah, very cool. So let's talk about men a little bit, because you work with a lot of men.
I do,
I work with
yes.
a lot of men. What are some of the common things you see with men today?
I'd like to rewind just a little, because I think this might fill out the story a little more. And I think this is, I don't know if just men are listening, but also for women, because my goal, even before I started working as a therapist, I always had this idea, like this, men and women working together. Or non-binary, it doesn't matter. Us working together, these concepts aren't so rigid. Remember, rigid thinking, disorganized brain. And yeah, I had suffered a lot of relationship trauma and have been hurt very badly by men, and women too. I've had some friendships go south. Anyway, I'd had it been very deeply hurt by men, and it took me a lot of work on myself to understand that with men, one of their biggest issues, and it doesn't matter if you're queer or straight, I still very much see that men fall into the boxes of, I have this wonderful emotional life, and then it's hard for me to earn in the financial world, or I'm really good at that and I'm really shut down around emotions. Because we live in a patriarchy, right? So it doesn't support like that integrated view. And me working through my traumas gave me the bandwidth to understand what men are going through. And that doesn't discount, just because you understand someone else's struggle, doesn't discount your own experience, just like I talked about when I was a child. Both are true, but we will not solve anything without having an understanding and accepting the whole picture, whether one has been hurt or not. And all of those things can be true,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And so, like, my thing is, once I started understanding men better and gaining more empathy for their experience and understanding how they are also victims of the patriarchy, because they're supposed to achieve and do everything right and know what to do. And they don't know what to do any more than I know what to do, but they're supposed to know what to do. That's the difference, right?
Yep.
And then the women might be like, oh, like I got to figure out myself, or like he doesn't know what to do, right? If we're talking about, straight relationships, but even that's like you're already pitted against each other, right? This is not helpful. And the more that I was able to like also understand that I feel that I was trained as in a very traditional way, and the model's not really working, right? Like it's not working for men, it's working for women. But there are other people on this planet other than women. So that's a problem.
Yeah. I kind of like what you said about the two branches. It's like you can have a great emotional life, but not be a good earner, but be a good earner and be emotionless. And I see that in men. And a lot of like what I like to do is, of course, when guys come and work with me, they want results, right?
Yeah.
They want to date,
Yeah.
they want to make money, they want a good career. But I also am trying to blend that emotional side because you need it. You need to have both of those to be a really successful guy.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the more successful men, they have that ability to kind of bounce between both. Not all, but a lot of them do.
Well, it depends. I just want to clarify for people. It seems to be what you're talking about is like what's defined as success is financial plus relationship.
Sure.
Versus one or the other. And I think that that's a really important distinction, right?
Yep.
Because back to that compartmentalized like body, even, in the throes of doing something athletic, you can't just compartmentalize. So, I mean, sure, you can. It's not going to leave for that fulfilling of a life.
Sure. And what I guess what I was saying there with that was, I was just throwing success out there. But like, what is success? Well, each one of us has to define that for ourselves. My definition of success is different than yours and different than all the other clients that I have that I work with, right? So, you kind of have to start at that point, I think. It's like, okay, what is success for me? And then go achieve that. And if you're yearning for more, then redefine the game. But yeah, I know what you're talking about, exactly.
I just think it's like an important place to start, right? Because again, you want to always, in order to have success or meet your goals, achieve what you want, if you're ignoring certain factors, you're only going to get to a certain point, right? So even understanding, like for some of us, if we just have, like I say the word success, immediately my brain goes to, oh, that must mean financial success, right? Like I'm sure many people watching or listening might think that.
Sure.
Especially males.
Yes.
Women might say that, men are valued, right, financially, oftentimes, like that's historically been the case. Women historically have been valued through like looks, marriage, and motherhood, and youth.
Yes.
Youth.
Yeah.
And so it's, I'm not saying these are right or wrong, but again, understanding like the bigger picture of like, well, what does that look like for you? And then maybe why would you want those things? And I think for men, like, part of like that buy-in is, well, why would I want success in multiple areas? Like, why would I not just want the money? Because it's the brain's like, well, that's the thing that's going to keep me okay. That's the thing that's going to keep me safe. Because they probably learned that was the only thing that would keep them safe, right?
Yeah.
They probably had trauma. Many men I work with, it's again, going back to we're so resilient as humans, but we're also so sensitive. And sometimes men have generally maybe healthy family lives. It's like good enough, right? All we need is a good enough model. And then they met somebody and this person broke their heart. And that one relationship that ended when they were 21 will affect them for the rest of their lives if they don't deal with it. It's like pretty mind-blowing how that happened.
100%. I do a lot of work with that.
And divorced men, that's
Divorced
many
men
men
as
never
well.
recover from divorce.
Yeah, I've been able to help a couple divorced guys get back in the game and do their thing and actually have thriving, loving relationships. So I'm really happy about that.
I'd love to hear that. And so what have you found that works?
So, you do somatics work. We talked about more like a somatic feeling-based releasing work, processing out those traumas in front of another woman, talking about that. That's what I do. Going through the stories and reprocessing them and kind of rewiring the mind so it'd be like, okay, I've spoken this out. I've seen that it's not that big of a deal. I'm looking for if they're considering themselves a victim in the situation, to see if that's there. How's their self-esteem? How do they even just view themselves as a man? Are they feeling worthless, useless? And so looking at all of those things and then start digging into that stuff and kind of help them reframe things in their mind so that they can see themselves as still the powerful guy that they were and a guy that's desirable and a guy that is a good guy. A lot of them feel like they're not good guys. They've done something wrong.
And then the question is, many of us have done things we aren't proud of. When the brain's in that state of rigidity, disorganization, I'm a bad guy, I can't forgive myself. You're actually missing the juice. And the answer isn't just, I'm a good guy, right? Because that's almost like what the brain was. Okay, well then I'm just the good guy. It's, no, I need to process, what's the pain here? What did that really feel like for me? what felt good about what I did and how I compartmentalized. Did I feel powerful in a certain way? And what felt bad? And if I have a problem feeling empathy, that's something to look at. Like, to me, that says maybe you weren't taught empathy by your parents. Maybe you had to do a lot of managing and surviving when you were younger. Maybe you expressed a lot of feelings and you got hurt. So again, you were taught, and brain says, oh, I don't want to feel that. That's not going to help me survive in life.
Yeah, exactly. And then some of the other things that I've seen is these guys, not all the divorce guys, but a lot of the guys that I work with, they have become the surrogate husband to their mother because the father left. Or they were raised in a household with all women and no masculine role model. And then so they're taking on all of that emotional stuff and using that, thinking that's like the way men should be all the time. And that's the detriment to them because they're not understanding how to take that emotional skill set, ground it, and use it effectively in the masculines. And so I work with them on that as well. And it's very, very helpful. I think it's a difficult skill set for a lot of men to learn, is the understanding of emotions and how that all works, and on a level that women can do it. It's a little bit more natural for women.
Yeah, and it looks different. Like, the book that I'm writing right now is actually more geared towards men and male language. It's around. I have a book, the counterpart, the female, and my language is different. They say similar things, but the way that I take information is different. Like, even the word, so my whole focus, which you touched upon in the beginning, is the attachment system. And I really believe it's the root of everything. The attachment system's located in, is it okay if I explain this?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. I think everybody's waiting to learn
Little
about
sciencey part of it. And I'll just say, when I discovered this, it was after grad school. I mean, of course, I'd read a little bit about attachment, but what I read actually triggered my own insecure attachment. I was like, I don't want to know more about this, And I ended up in a continuing education about somatic attachment, which means connecting the body to help heal the attachment system. And I just signed up randomly because I needed a few extra continuing education credits for hours. And this woman had spoken, and I liked what she'd said. She was a practitioner. And so then I just randomly signed up. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I think it was the second session, the training was a year long. I was like, I was like, this is what I've been missing. And so here's why. Back to the attachment system is located right next to our physical threat response system. So I like to refer to the attachment system as the emotional threat response system, if you will. Okay. And so the limbic portion of our brain is that primal brain. It's survival brain. Yep. And I mean, all you have to do to survive is just keep breathing. That's it. But those two systems are linked to our central nervous system, right? And the nervous system, in order to reach a state of security, it not only needs to survive, but it also needs to connect. And connection means connecting with our emotional experience, processing them, having the ability to not just acknowledge our emotions, but feel them, process them, right? And support them. That makes us thrive. That brings us, this is back to my language with men. I don't even like the word security because that can be financial security, right? It's a little bit of a mixed word. Yeah. It brings us into peak performance or optimal flow state. When all systems are firing, when you're out there, whether you're a gamer or you're, a traditional athlete, when you're in that flow state, everything's working, you're like, I'm on fire. Yeah. That's the secure attached place. You have flexibility in the brain, right? You're easily able to attune to your body and your mind and support what it needs in the moment. So we want more of that and less of just survival brain. But when we have trauma, that survival brain kind of runs the show. And again, none of us can get away from that because if we look evolutionarily speaking, we need to survive, right? Animals in the wild, we all, some of us are fighters, right? Just like in the wild, some animals attack, some run, that's their, protective mechanism. Some freeze, which also helps depending on the type of animal you are. We humans are the same. So we have our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's the people pleaser response.
What was the last one?
Fawn, F-A-W-N.
Like fawning over something?
Yeah. So, I'm just going to say things to make you happy or please you, because I know, like, ultimately what's underneath that, right, is like if I sense that my system might be in distress, if I say something that doesn't please you, right, I might get activated in that way to avoid conflict or to avoid feeling really uncomfortable with maybe making someone else uncomfortable.
Interesting.
Right.
So, do you know about the nice guy? Have you?
Nobody wants to be the nice guy.
Exactly. So when you said fawning,
Yeah.
I go right to the nice guy. Because
Exactly.
the nice guy does that to everyone.
Exactly. And that's why, it's not about being mean. It's about being authentic, right? That bravery that you speak of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So many of us, going back to our brains, right, predict, right, what is our reality before it's even happened, because we've learned, we've been taught certain things consciously and subconsciously by our environment, by our parents. We also, when stuff happens to us, if we don't have all the details of the story, right, our brains are filling in those gaps to create the story. And that's how we learn to respond to things. And we do that again and again and again and again. And that's how we perceive the world, right? Which is, we're predicting it before it's even happening. And I have my perspective of that, and you have yours. And they're going to be slightly different based on all these factors, right? And so that's how we all have an insecurely attached part of ourselves and a securely attached part of ourselves operates. That secure place, or that optimal flow, peak performance, brain is flexible. I have the ability to kind of trust myself and trust my feelings, very importantly, and trust others. But no, ultimately, if I ask you for something, you can't meet my needs, I'm going to be able to handle my feelings about it and take care of myself no matter what, right? That's the optimal flow state. And then we have the more, like, I call them like the guard dogs.
Okay.
those guard dogs in place that are our protectors. And that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that's when those protectors, those are survival mechanisms that are running the show in order to survive. Many of us, right, I'll use myself for an example. That lack of attunement that I got from my parents caused me to be more reactionary around things that were distressing to me, right? But and this applies to anything we have an attachment towards, which basically means all of life, but most specifically, our attachment system, which was the scientific theory on why it was created, is it helps us bond with our caregivers, and we have to bond with them in order to survive, because we can't survive on our own.
Correct.
So we're mirroring the behavior of our caregivers and how they're responding to us in distress or joy, in space and distance. And how they are responding to us is how we learn to develop our connection with our emotional experience. And as we grow up in the world, we don't need our primary caregivers as much anymore. So the emphasis goes from that to romantic partners. And that's why, like, love and relationships are like such, and we shouldn't get away from that. Human beings are interdependent beings. Relationships is living.
Should be interdependent, right?
Say again?
Healthy relationships should be interdependent.
Interdependent, yes, yes.
I have two questions. I'll try if I can try to remember the second one. You said you would have a reactionary response. Mm-hmm. Can you give an example for people watching and listening? Like, what is a reactionary response? Because some of the things that we're talking about are very subtle and we don't realize it.
Oh, I love that you said that. So one of the things I try to get people to work on is the nuance of when things are happening. So a lot of times people are like, I had no problems. I was totally fine. And then I start talking to them and I'm like, well, what about this, or what about that? They're only clocking the larger, like the fire engine red flag situation is like, oh, that's when I'm having a reactionary response. No. We're all having responses all the time. I'm having a response to you right now. My body is clocking whether I feel safe or if I feel in distress in some way, which some of has to do with you and some of it has to do with my upbringing, how comfortable I am in whatever's happening, right? Just as you're having the same.
Sure.
So these subtle layers, and I always like to start with like going back to, you want to start looking at what you're feeling when you're not in distress, because even if it's subtle, like I want three, I don't want 1 or 3 brownies, I want a pan full of brownies, right? Like sometimes for many of us, that numbness, the overwhelm, the checked out, I totally forgot, right? That is a survival response, right? That's that flight. Or freeze, can be freeze too. But checked out, overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm feeling. I have no emotions at all.
I hear that all the time.
I'm totally fine, right? That's like
Totally fine.
Okay, that inner avoidant is experiencing some distress, doesn't even like sharing the feelings because that person learned that feelings are unsafe.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. That answers a good question for me. So, because
I'm like, what?
because I've worked with a lot of guys like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, some guys are very apathetic, which I understand. Okay, that's fine. But what you just said right there gives me a very clear thing to say to them. Well, it's like, okay, you don't like those feelings. You feel numb to them because you don't feel like it's okay to express those feelings, ultimately.
Yeah, so what I like to do with that, I always say numbness is a feeling.
It
Feeling
is,
numb
totally.
is something. Feeling nothing is something, and it's actually a sign. If you're feeling numbed, forgetful, checked out, the biggest factor, in my shoes, the way I learned it was when people are using generalized descriptors, they're already in that inner avoidant. It can appear subtle, but actually the system is in very high distress. That's because the parasympathetic nervous system, the system of calm, is on steroids. The opposite of that is somebody with a highly reactive, both are highly reactive, it's just one doesn't look like, one's like, calm down, and the other one's like, I'm so upset, right? It's usually the way that always gets happened. And so on the other side of that, you have the sympathetic nervous system, hyperactivated, hyperarousal, for somebody who runs more anxious, that fighter response. Or you have hypoarousal, which is a heightened response just the other direction. That system of calm is running the show. I'm so at peace. I'm fine. I want the pan full of brownies. Or I feel no emotions at all. And so when one of my rules of thumb around when I see that, because that side is a slippery little sucker, right? Because it's like I'm feeling numb, but I forgot what I felt like. I tried to acknowledge what I was feeling, but then I just forgot, right? Like this happens because the brain is in such a high protective response. So the first thing I like to do is say, usually numbness is a response of, is showing us the body's in a state of overwhelm.
So sympathetic nervous system's kicked up.
Parasympathetic. System of calm.
So parasympathetic is kicked up at that point.
Yes, if you're feeling fine, numb, nothing at all, checked out, parasympathetic nervous system running the show, that's the avoidant, the inner avoidant is flaring. Might even forget. Are you here with me now? I don't know where I was. Right, like that. And something in them is that distressing. But here's the thing, and this is, I have empathy for this because it's very hard if you're in that position to work with that side of self because you're fighting checking out all the time. So number one, we start with, okay, even this, on some level, my brain knows I'm just going to go with the acknowledgement that I must be in overwhelm in some way. And I'm just going to acknowledge that part of me just seems to check out around dealing with feelings. That I feel totally fine, and I like feeling that way. So we've got to start with the attunement there. Like, there is a part of this that feels good, because let me tell you, the only way out is through. However, when you don't feel things, it feels better than feeling the bad things in the beginning. Because when you start feeling those feelings, it's highly distressing. Now, there is a reward on the other side of that, and I've worked with many an avoidant, and I mean, we'll say men can fall into that category a little more, but I know plenty of men who operate with more anxiety as well, so I just wanted to throw that out there. But they feel, well, what's the reward, right? Because then I'm going to have to feel these feelings, and why would I feel them?
Exactly.
The reward that I usually hear from males is, I never knew I could actually feel this way, and it feels so good, because you block yourself from the good. you block yourself from having that true acceptance. And I feel like that's what men often want in partnership, that ability to fully be themselves.
Yep.
You will never get there until you learn to accept your own emotional state. Because no matter how much I try to give my love to you, you won't be able to take it in. From here, oh, Jacqueline did this, that's great. But if you don't feel it in the body, feel the emotions, it just goes right out. And I've done that too. We all have done that.
Oh, totally.
And that's oftentimes when I look back, what I've regretted on relationships is that inability to take in the love, right? And I feel that many men fall into this category, back to your thing of, oh, I messed up, I'm a bad person. I think emotions like that usually come from, I wasn't quite connected. You can never get to optimal flow state by ignoring circumstances. You look at Kelly Slater or Tom Brady, these guys, they're not ignoring everything. In fact, you got to notice every little part of your body and the way it's working in order to have all systems go.
Yep.
Working with any part that's like a little weak, because we all have weak parts, we all have strong parts, to know and to attune to all of those. That's how those guys are so good. And they know how to keep it flexible, keep it flowing, right?
Yeah.
Keep it processing through, like not getting stuck in some way. If they get stuck, then it's a problem, right? Then they're actually stuck. Can't move forward.
The beautiful thing about, being an athlete or an athletic guy, a body in motion is always releasing stuff.
Yes.
And so, like, those guys obviously are doing it at a high level. So there's, like, as they're doing their craft, they're still, like, releasing what you're talking about, all these little things that are emotionally maybe attacking them or bothering them, like, through that sport.
Exactly. And I'm going to throw this in there because I'm just going to throw a little wrench in because, like, that's part of the fun.
Let's do it.
Okay. And some of us use bodies, working out, sports as a way to disengage. It's actually, like there's basically 3 different ways we regulate. We regulate by distraction, auto-regulation, right? That's what it's called, or distraction. And so that's like, I feel bad, I'm going to have a glass of wine, or I'm going to go sweat it off at the gym. Or I don't know, I'm just going to like go do some art, or I'm going to watch a movie. Like all of those are ways we distract ourselves. And we need that, right? Especially if you're hyper-focusing, usually the rule of thumb is if you're hyper-focusing and want to not let something go, the answer is to distract. But if you're under-focusing, that numbness, that's when you don't want to distract, right? Like you need to attune to, so that part that's in distress starts to learn, oh, it's okay for me to come out and be seen. And in a way, like I said, attune is so important, that doesn't feel too distressing, because too much out when not ready can cause the snapback within, right? So that's like maybe someone's pushing past their numbness and I'm having feelings, they feel too much, and then they go within, right? Because maybe the shame is too much, right?
Shame, guilt.
Yes. Yeah. So my rule of thumb of working with the numbness is to recognize it, acknowledge it, always ask if it's there, and keep asking, do we need a break right now? Do we need to step away? Do we need to just talk about something totally different, so that the body has time to recalibrate? And now maybe I'm going to go where you originally wanted to go. Just took us a really long time to get there. Artistic swimming. I started doing this only 2 years ago. I was a surfer for many years and still am, but COVID hit and the water got really crowded, and I was looking for a new community, and I still needed to be in water. And my mom's very intuitive, and she was like, I'm kidding, you should try synchronized swimming.
Nice.
My inner masculine side came out. I was like, oh, they're not going to have that. I was like being very rigid about it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I always say I oftentimes say no before I say yes. So I was like grumpy about it. But then, 15 minutes later, I looked online. It was like, boom, Loyola Marymount every Sunday, adults. And I was like, which is 15 minutes from my house. So I went. Well, it's like, okay, they do have it for adults. And I was just hooked. I was like, wait, this is like dance plus swimming. Okay, you're also upside down. I love to be flip and be upside down. And it's so grueling and so difficult. And also it's so fun. And I was like, I'm just giving my inner child what she needed, which is, I wasted all those years swimming. But I could have been doing the funner sport.
When you could have been doing artistic swimming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I have so much time to make up for, so I train all the time. And the reason I was wanted to bring up that part now is learning a new skill as an adult and understanding, right? Like I'm learning this new skill, right? So I can only go, even if I'm training, which I love to nerd out this way. So I'm training like about 2.5 hours a day right now because I love it so much for also training for a competition. But that's still only going to take me so far because I have many competing needs at the same time. So I have to basically choose one to focus on and just work with that skill. And then I got to keep working it, and then I find a new one, and then I add in, right, more and more, and then I have to go back and add. And this is the same way we have to be around our attachment. And when I was speaking about that numbness before, I had a point and I lost it around learning something new with what we were talking about, the avoidance and the...
Was it the feeling of learning something new overwhelming and then the person numbing?
Oh, well, in the beginning, I would get instructions and I would do them, but I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
When you're learning this stuff, in order to attune to yourself, you're gonna go through the actions. You just got to take the action anyway. Even when you don't know, especially when you don't know what you're doing, you take the action. You're not feeling it. You're not supposed to. I don't feel many things in my body yet. And then over time, I consistently show up, keep doing the work. And then one day I'm like, oh,
there it is. Yeah.
yes, that's what it's supposed to feel like.
Totally.
So you have to walk through the dark and you got to do it all the time. You got to be consistent, and you got to be consistent, not just when you're in competition. That's like when you're in the high emotional state. That's a bad time to start because you're not going to have the skills.
Yeah.
You might hit it once and hit that peak performance state, but you're not going to have that consistency without that consistent practice. Tom Brady didn't become Tom Brady by even if he's a prodigy, right? But then there's the whole 10,000 hours thing, of course.
Totally.
But he has special gifts, right? A lot of things in his favor, and also he still practices all the time.
Yep. Talent will only take you so far.
Yes, and if one of, let's say, the skill sets is to, numb out, I want to distract in order to blow off some steam. The more that I use that, the weaker I'm going to become in attuning to what my emotional state is. So back to men, I'm fine. Well, they become expert. They become Tom Brady in feeling numb. And it's not bad or good, but if we just tell them, oh, now you need to go feel, that might feel too unsafe, right? So it's more like working with that piece along the way. And over time, you got to be patient and consistent. That part can start to open up.
Yep. It does take a long time when the body is so overwhelmed that it numbs out. I've experienced that working with guys. It takes a very long time for them to actually start being comfortable to come out and engage and actually express, emote. It's really interesting.
And the beauty is, you don't have to do it perfectly.
Exactly. That's another. I'm glad you said that.
It's like
All of you guys listening, please, you do not have to do it perfectly. I prefer them to just come in and fuck it all up and just have the experience, and then we can refine it.
Well, what happens for those of us who run with that inner avoidant, it's retreat until I feel some sense of safety and security to know what to do, right? The man needs to know what to do. And I often find it's not that one, it might be masked as I don't care, that apathy, that ambivalence. Maybe it's, oh, I really want to do this. I took one session and then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. That's because the body's in distress.
Yeah. Yep.
Running
Absolutely.
scared.
Yeah.
But when we are living in, I heard this recently, I thought it was really good. Perfectionism is a response to anxiety. And so when we're in the perfectionism, we're actually in that rigid brain. And that's like a blocker. Like when you're, on the mountain skiing and you like want to get it right, you've actually lost that moment of attunement. You're like no longer in the present moment and you're probably fucked. You're probably not, so you can tumble.
Yep. I've been there many times.
Or you only get so far. And like
Yeah.
that actually happened to me a lot in sports. And I like learning a new sport at this age, accepting limitations. I had to really adjust to also learning to find that joy, which is why I'm doing it. And like being okay with being kind of bad right now. Like I'm a little like watching a young child perform. I'm like, I don't really want to show this to anyone. But why am I doing it? Because I keep putting in the work, because I love it, because it's satisfying. And I came from that background of like perform, succeed at all costs. Well, you miss that moment of being present. And then of course it's hard to ever be great. You might be to a certain degree, but you're gonna lack that extra something. And that's that optimal flow state. That's when all those systems are firing, like I said. And when you're worried about being perfect, this is what I heard recently that I wanted to say, is that the remedy is striving for excellence, not striving for perfection. So like as best I can do in the moment. And for those of us who run more avoidant, it's almost like we care too much about getting it right. So retreat until, maybe I don't know how to get it right, but I feel somehow in control or in power again. But what men don't understand oftentimes is the juice is in actually saying that. I don't know what to do and I don't want to get it wrong. That's the vulnerability right there.
Yep. Which is a beautiful
That's
thing.
the connection.
Yeah.
That's all we want. And when you're connected, it's like when you're all systems are go, when you're playing your sport, you're actually not thinking about being good. You're just in it. That's the trick. So relationships and dating are the same way. Like, yeah, you can be the player dude and like pull lots of chicks, but like that's only going to take you so far. Like, sure, you pull lots of chicks, but we're talking like, don't you want somebody who like fully accepts you as you, and also maybe somebody who even brings out the side of you who wants to be a better man, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You know, which you can only have if you can access within self.
Yep. I've worked with those guys. I have. Very prideful guys. Very prideful.
That's how they learn to manage their self-esteem, right? You know?
Yeah. And then girl after girl keeps that self-esteem
Yes.
pumped up.
Because in cases like this, what happens, you know, remember those protective mechanisms, they're smart suckers, and they're also excellent, right? Like they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. So they excel at what they do. And they will do anything to protect us from those core emotions that we learned in essence don't feel good. So I said joy can be one, or like when things aren't chaotic, right? I mean it in the sense of a window of tolerance. We all of us have a window of tolerance for joy. We all think, oh, I want more. But actually it's quite hard to let that in, right? Like if you have a partner who maybe does something for you, an act of service for you, right? And your love language is physical affection. You might say, oh, okay, that's nice. I don't know, this is like very heteronormative, but
Yeah, it's
I don't know, she
totally
made me
true,
dinner,
though.
but
It's
like,
totally true.
she made me dinner, but I really wanted to have sex, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want the dinner, right? But by that, what you just did is you turned away that person's bid for connection, right? Just by you not slowing down and taking in that this is this woman's care for me. And then the problem is everybody loses in that. And women do it too. I'm not saying they don't. It just, you know, it's a dance. And so with men like this, where these players, and they have the protector, like they're good at like getting the woman, but then maybe the apathy or ambivalence sets in. Like, I don't know, I really want to meet my person. I don't know, I just haven't met the right one,
Yeah.
right? Like, you probably hear that a lot.
Yep.
Because they don't have that ability to be close to those core emotions, vulnerability, intimacy, to them was scary. The body, that parasympathetic nervous system, runs the show, checks out. The distress comes, but they don't feel anything, because remember that distress comes up and expresses as apathy or ambivalence. So it's like, I'm just not interested anymore, right? And so on to the next, because they got closer and the closeness was the trigger, but that protective response, instead of them understanding, you got to get beneath the protective response to say, oh, I'm actually starting to feel closer and I maybe don't feel so much in control, and that feels really scary.
Yeah.
Instead, that protector says, everything's fine, I'm just not interested in them anymore. This happens oftentimes, you can see it like when men and women have sex too soon. And I know there's like a lot of different ways we can look at sex, but because the contrast is so different than like our daily lives, and we're hearing clothes and we're having these conversations, then you have sex, it's like the total opposite. It's like night and day. It's like a completely different. It can be too much for the system to handle, that afterwards you just shut down. I'm not interested in that person anymore, because it was too much closeness all at once. the brain might not register it that way because men are actually taught, right, feel good about yourself. You know, fuck a lot of women. Feel good about yourself. You just move on. Like, you're not taught to feel bad. Like, if you're not interested in the person, it's just like, yeah, whatever. That could even be a good thing, right? But men oftentimes are taught to sexualize their feelings because they're not allowed to feel their emotions. So the only place it can go is through sex. But then too many feelings, right, like can cause distress within the system. And again, this isn't conscious.
Yeah.
This is not from the secure brain, but it's from what's happening unconsciously within us, how that system is learned to adapt to and to see the world.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know, I talked about distraction as a way that we regulate ourselves. There's two other ways.
Okay.
Co-regulation, and if you run anxious, you're probably really good at it. And so that's external things in order to regulate. So needing another person to share, to connect with, maybe needing more reassurance. Sometimes it's over-attunement. Like sometimes I remember I spoke with this guy once who was talking about how like he tries to like predict what the woman's gonna feel, but the woman would get triggered.
Sure.
Because he wasn't really attuning to her. His anxiety was running the show.
And like kind of projecting into the future constantly.
Yeah.
Not present here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. But when we co-regulate, that's that ability for us to share in an honest way, and our partner is able to mirror our emotions. So right, like validate, acknowledge what we're saying, and then express support from it. And so then we feel like seen and heard. And so I think for men, right, they oftentimes, they don't necessarily get that directly. Sometimes they do, like with their male friends and stuff, but sometimes it's like, right, through sports or through, right, like there's always like a buffer in place in order to like express emotion in some way. And we co-regulate in all kinds of ways, right? Like I co-regulate with like my barista. I love to see him every day. It just makes me happy, you know? He's part of my morning routine. I like it. That's also co-regulation.
Okay.
If you run avoidant, you run low on that because basically that numbness is going to shut you down, right? Because co-regulation is about being close. Avoidants don't want to do that. Closeness is distressing, right?
That's interesting. I think I'm an avoidant. I think I am.
Well, we haven't talked. We have the avoidant. We have the anxious type.
Okay.
The avoidant, I like to.
Can they be blended?
Well, that's what I was going to say,
Okay.
right? So, like the anxious type looks like two ways. Like either Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, like love you, I'm so excited, right? Or like a piece of Velcro, like attached to your side, right? Or the avoidant might be like the lone wolf or like a Siberian husky, just, you know, roaming, doing its own thing, right? And I pride myself from being so self-sufficient. That's what the avoidant says, right? Right? Well, men are even taught that, right? Like I should know what to do. And then there's the disorganized type. I like to say mixed. I think that sounds a little nicer. And I think most of us, the older theory used to be like disorganized, very rare. You have to remember all of us contain all of these sides. And it's just about what kind of blending, right? Like what's that formula within you? The disorganized is the mixed style. So that's the anxious and the avoidant mixed into one. And you might lead with avoidance or you might lead with the anxious style, like depending. But if you tend to flip-flop or go, people who are disorganized in style oftentimes like grew up with a chaotic family background, maybe undiagnosed or an untreated like mental health stuff within the family, trauma. It could be loss, could be just like loss of someone that can trigger that. Because what happens is, again, there's all those risk factors, right? And what's the straw that broke the camel's back that pushes you in the other direction? And so the older we get, the more trauma we have because you're just alive for longer and trauma is part of life, right? Sure. And oftentimes that survival response, which is the insecurely attached part of ourselves, like runs the show. Because that's what we're doing when we have trauma. We just have to survive it. And we then have to try to reorganize, make sense of the world in a new way. And we have trauma, that was in a negative way. So the only way through that in the healthy way is to process the emotions and allow it to transform you for the good. If you don't process it and it just, an avoidant, if they, for example, experience loss, it would be like, fine, I'm on to the next person, I'm gonna date really soon, like whatever. But then like in 3 years, they like blow up their lives, right? Like that can happen.
Sounds about right.
The anxious type is like never getting over, the loss. They like talk about it forever, maybe to their avoidant friends who are like, you should just move on, right?
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally.
Right? You know those people? They're the obsessors. Like I was overhearing somebody talk the other day, and they're like, so-and-so, met a new girl. It's been a week. He's already in love. And the other guy's like, oh, you better watch out for that one. And I was thinking, anxious, or maybe disorganized in style. The disorganized types are the love bombers, or it could be like those player guys who are like pulling lots of women. And the thing, when you have disorganized style, you might not even be aware, like love bombing, like you might feel all in with someone, but then you pull out just as quick, right? Like that, you see, that's very disorganized. It's not all
like
systems.
Hot, cold.
Yeah. Confusing or very conflicting behaviors and emotions, that's disorganized style. And so the remedy for that is actually to accept both sides. So like for those player guys, it's like, you got to start working with that side that does want to run, right? Like you can't ignore it. It's like, yeah, I work with the side that's like, I don't even understand it yet, but there's a side of me that just like that just like hits ambivalent and just doesn't want anything to do and like really likes my independence, as well as the side that says, I really want to find my partner. Like both of those are true. And we got to like accept both parts in order to move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I went through that personally.
I think most of us are. I identify as like disorganized towards secure, right? But that side of me can still come out because, of course, none of us are perfect, and nothing is set in stone. Life is fluid. So we have the distraction, auto-regulation, co-regulation, and here's the mothership. Got to do this one in order to peak performance, optimal flow.
Okay.
Is self-regulation, and that is one's ability to acknowledge what they're feeling, consciously feel it, process it, and support it. And that's the one that nobody wants to do. That's the one they're like, oh no, I'll just go avoid.
Yeah, because you're there with yourself, and there's nobody there to help support or guide you or anything. Like you really have to acknowledge what's going on yourself and work through it.
And remember, men are fighting that need, that story that says I should be in control and in charge of my emotions, and I should know what to do. Well, emotions are like the opposite of that. You come up, they come up. You can't quite control them. You don't know where it's going to take you. When I work with men, oftentimes, I do a lot of parts work. So I imagine this part, like this avoidant part, like tell me what this part has to say, And we talk about that. I never know, even if I have something in my head, you always want it to come from, I want it to come from you so that your body gets that like emotional experience of it. That's how you get like the healing, which is in the feeling. I don't know if you guys have heard that one. The healing's in the feeling. It's true.
Totally.
that emotional brain, it needs the feeling. In order to have that integrated, you're going to have to learn to be with self and acknowledge all that, right? And if you brute force your way through, you're going to bypass it, and you'll never get to experience like that sweet spot. Like it will always be elusive, and that's the dirty work. It is very hard, and for those who run avoidant, the co-regulation piece, it can feel painful. It will feel excruciating. And that's why if you're single out there, there's so many opportunities to work on this in like small ways before, you jump into a marriage, for example, which might be like, could be not always, right? But could be disorganized attachment to go from like, I met someone, they're the one, like sometimes that does happen, right? And many times that insecurely attached part of ourselves might be running the show.
Interesting.
And so like how an avoidant could work on this, right? In the meantime of like, I'm working with my ambivalence, like check in with friends after dates and like talk about what did that feel like? Even if the feeling was like, I felt nothing at all, it was totally fine. Yeah, I'm gonna go through the action of, calling her, but like, yeah, I don't really care. I'm talking to all these other women. No, slow it down. Try focusing on one person and see how that feels. Like if your habit is date a lot, date less. If your habit's dating less, maybe date a little more.
Yeah.
It depends on what your issue is. If you're dating less from the place of I feel really insecure. Maybe it's not forever, but maybe you want to just be in the art of practicing talking to women, right? And noticing what's the discomfort that comes up, right? I'm not saying go out and fuck a bunch of women at the same time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's individual or unique needs based on like the style that you have.
Yep. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally. That makes total sense. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. I caught something a while back that I want to talk to you about that I thought was really interesting. It was very subtle, but it was something that happened to me, and I was just like, that explains a lot.
Oh gosh, don't you just love those moments?
So you,
Yeah, right.
so you talked about joy, and you talked about our ability to only kind of accept so much joy. And I had an experience that I was just overcome with joy, like tears, just like, I was out snowboarding. I was in Japan, beautiful light, like the snow, like I just crashed, whatever, got back up. And I just like had this moment. It was just like overcome with joy. And I was like, what is going on? Man, there's like tears just start coming down. I'm like looking around and I'm like, I'm not hurt. Like it was very confusing for me. But afterwards, I was like, oh, that was just more joy than I had ever felt in my entire life. And I was like, this was awesome. And now, of course, I try to chase that, which is a terrible thing to do. But in the moment, it was getting so big and I shut it down.
How did you shut it down?
I was just like, oh, this can't be real. It was very dreamlike, very, very dreamlike for me. I was like, is this really happening? No, I can't feel this good. I've never felt this good. And I just shut it down. And then, of course, a couple seconds after, I was like, no, that was real. I want it back. And yeah, I haven't been able to get back there yet.
Sounds like you got some more feelings to process.
Oh yeah, probably a shitload.
Like I would say, I'm curious, before I say anything, like when you said you're trying to get back, how have you been trying to get back to it? Because I think this is such a good analogy for like, I want the one or I want the thing, but you can't, like, so I'm curious what that's like.
For me, for a while, for a couple years, I would try to get back to it. I've just let it go now. I don't.
And what would be trying? Like what did the actions look like?
Of course, it was usually related to sports. Mm-hmm. But I would also try to like replicate that feeling in my body. Mm-hmm. That feeling of just pure peace and enjoyment and just like everything's beautiful. And I kind of can get close, but I've never gotten to that like peak experience again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was, yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I don't want to chase this thing. It'll happen again if it's supposed to. And so I haven't been chasing it. Uh-huh. But I also do feel that there's like, there's a lot of dark subtones to my life. And so I think part of that is keeping that experience from coming back.
And when you say dark subtones,
I can't identify it.
yeah. Okay, it's just kind of like a sense.
A sense of feeling, yeah.
So what I would say like is, well, do you want to hear what I would say about it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Right. Okay. Got to get permission first.
It's all right. It's all good.
Part of that attunement. Is like imagine that like that the dark subtones, as we'll call them, the dark subject, like that part of yourself that you're like, I know that's there. Something, just kind of imagine it as a part, in your mind's eye. Just ask it. I would spend some time maybe writing with your non-dominant hand, like, what does it have to tell you? Like, what messages does it have for you? And it might be like nothing, just darkness, just numbness. Okay, great. But that is the message right there. Numbness, darkness, nothing at all. Check out. Or maybe it's, maybe you don't like the feeling, but it's like, I'm here, I'm persisting. Okay, so it's telling you like it's not going away. That's what it's telling you. And so I would work on just continuing to like support that. Like, okay, you don't want to go away. Okay, like what are you here for? All right, be with that. Mm-hmm. Try to even love on that. Like send it feelings of like, all right, cool. And of course, the brain is like, but I don't want to feel it, right? So you also have to work on supporting that side that says, I'm resistant to it. I don't want to feel it. And maybe even the part that comes in, here's a third part that just came up in me. Maybe there's a part there that says, I want this to go away so I can feel the good. So even that part, like what does that part have to say? I want to feel the good, but I can't get there. It might have something to say.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'll try that for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely try that. There's a part of me that's okay with the darker subtones. I feel power in that for sure. But I think it could be a contributing factor of not being able to get that joy meter back up to where it was.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I like that you said, I like the darkness. This is not to like love and light, peaches and roses. This is not what we're talking about. It's actually through the attunement of that. That's why I said just accept it, support it. It's not to push it away, actually, because all of us have that. It's more, I'm curious of what more integration brings. Like, I mean, maybe it has a memory that came up that just needs to be expressed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Your mind and body will show you where to go. But so it's very much not to get rid of it. It's actually just to integrate it.
Okay.
I remember what I was going to say earlier about the sports and the synchronized swimming is, I've worked with athletes who they have to be careful with their relationship in sports because they're losing themselves that way. And sometimes that's wonderful. I remember I was going through a very stressful time, and I had was last year, and I was in Masters Nationals, and I was having a very, very stressful work time. I was like, oh my God, all I have to do is like just think about my sport all weekend. But of course, it doesn't work like that. My brain was so focused on like the other stressors in my life. It was very, difficult to just focus. But I wanted to just, use that as an outlet to forget about everything. And if you're somebody like that, like the work for me, because I'm such a mover, like I got to move my body all the time. And it is a position, I identify with other athletes in that way. It's a position of like power for me. I don't feel right if I'm not moving.
100%.
When I first started doing the work, I would say I would tell clients who identify in that same way, like go on walks, ask yourself, like just while you're walking, I feel fine. What am I feeling? Acknowledge that you're feeling fine and just kind of start to pick at it. Like what's underneath the fine while you're in movement, because it can create that buffer of safety that I spoke about. Sometimes men only have through sports. And over time, right, you want to acknowledge what you're feeling. Then you want to feel what you're feeling. Even if it's like, I'm totally fine, just fully let that in and then support it. If there is something that feels really good, feeling fine, great. But I want you to start being curious. What else is here? And then over time, the more that you can do that while you're moving, you want to eventually be able to do it while you're not, right? So that you don't have that buffer built in, you're able to feel things directly. That's what's going to take you to where all those systems are firing, right? Because if you're relying on one thing, you might need that in the beginning. That's like, you start swimming, you might need floaties at the beginning, right? Like in order to keep yourself above float, or like a life vest, right? Because you won't have to deal with that like competing need in the water. So this stuff is the same, right? So yeah, if you're used to moving, do it, and eventually you want to be able to sit with self and feel and support without the extra. But at the beginning, sometimes we need that.
Using it kind of like as a crutch or an aid to get to that place and kind of get comfortable with those feelings.
Yeah.
Then remove that crutch or that aid and then sit here with it.
Exactly.
And deal with it.
And so like for those of us who run more anxious, who kind of might need other people to share in order to even understand what we're feeling, you'll see kind of happening sometimes. You want to do that, with a person who's not going to take you down that obsession train further, right? Because that's just going to keep reinforcing the message of the way the brain has to not process, the way the brain has to respond to things. And you want to work with someone like a coach or a therapist who can help you really process what's there. And at some point, like I always say, like, whoever you're seeing, like I always view myself, like it's like a coach. Like I'm helping you in the time that I'm with you, and so much of what you're doing is in your off time.
Yep.
Like you will not stay in shape if you go to a personal trainer once a week. That's just like not going to happen.
No.
So you got to take that work that you learn and then go apply it. And then you come back and say, hey, this worked, this didn't work. I didn't understand what you meant here. I tried it. That's just like learning a new sport. This is what I love athlete analogies, because it is very similar.
Totally. I make those references all the time with my guys.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it's just like this and this and this. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So you do somatic healing as well.
Which just means incorporating the body.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Feeling, body. Yeah.
Somatics means body.
Yep. So are you blending the clinical psychology with the somatic work to get the results for your clients?
Well, I was trained very traditionally. I have my master's in clinical psychology. So obviously I came from that very like Western background. And when I learned somatics is, I would say it's like a little bit more of a progressive approach, but you can't separate out one from the other, right? So what I've learned is always going to inform how I've come to the table, right? Because it's all connected. So you can't really suss out one or another. And so oftentimes in my work, like I do parts work, like I just shared with you. So like talk to this part of yourself. Like I love to do that. I ask myself this every morning. Like if I'm feeling anxious, like what does the anxious part of me have to say? And like what's the feeling? Anxiety is a protective response. So what's the feeling underneath this anxiety? Maybe I'm like scared today, right? Well, what am I scared of? Or does it feel better to feel scared than just like feel joy? Right? There's that window of tolerance for joy for anxious types. Like, what would it feel like just to feel good? Oh, that might feel a little scary, right? So I'll kind of talk to myself in that way and go into what physical sensations we're feeling. So that's oftentimes I'll ask my clients, like, do you notice any physical sensations at all? Whether or not you think they're related, just anything you're noticing in your body. And for numbness, sometimes people who run avoidant in that way are like really strong physical sensors. They'll be like, oh, I noticed this in my stomach and this in my chest. Or sometimes it's like, I feel nothing at all. And really that depends on maybe how safe they feel inside their bodies. Okay. But when we start working with the numbness, even, what is it like? Like I'll say like, feel the back of your hands, like, cause that can just feel like good to feel your own skin. So like just
Like
connecting.
kind of like soothing maneuver. See, speakers do it. I do it when I speak sometimes. So it's self-soothing.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
That can also pull one into the present, right? If they're not feeling any sensation at all, feel this, or sit with self. Okay, I'm feeling numb right now. Well, if I'll ask them usually to go inward. So you'll see me close my eyes right now, and I'll just start noticing, like, do I feel sensation anywhere? And as I'm doing this, I'll notice, oh, I have sensation in my jaw. So it helps them stay in the present moment and also connect physical body with mind at the same time, right? And that's how we get all those systems firing. And so, okay, can we talk about psychedelic therapy just for a moment?
Let's do it.
Okay, so part of the thing with, like, if you look at MDMA, for example, or ketamine falls into the same boat, like the body is, when you're under the influence, and by the way, this does not work if you're not in the therapeutic setting. And I'll go into why.
I think it's really important that you pointed that out, because there's a lot of self-medicators that are not doing it effectively, like you're getting ready to explain to us.
Exactly, and you can go have a good experience and go feel good. Great.
Yeah.
I'm not discounting that. But you want to get therapeutic benefits of it. And so here's why. Like, so when you're doing psychedelic assisted therapy, ketamine treatments or MDMA or mushrooms, which isn't always a feel good experience, but anyway, that's a whole other. You're doing it with the goal of, okay, this is a problem in my life and this is what I want to work on, or I'm not sure what I want to work on, but like I just know like there's stuff here. MDMA, for example, or ketamine does the same, but I'm just going to talk. I've never tried ketamine-assisted therapy, but I have tried MDMA before. And what it does, right, it's making all of the sensations, all of the emotions, everything your body's feeling good. That judgment around this being good or bad is pulled away, right? So you feel so alive, or like an animal in the way that we perceive them, or they're just like, oh, I'm feeling this. So, right? Like you see that's like part of why we have this unconditional love, because it's like they don't have the judgment that we have about whatever their experience is, And so when we're under the influence of psychedelics, right, like that's of course why you will feel good, right? It's breaking down those inhibitors in the brain. It's releasing more serotonin, amongst other feel-good chemicals. And so you're able to access like pieces of trauma. And here's the thing, trauma is irrational by nature. Anytime we have trauma, even if they're small ones, it's turning the world on its head as we know it in a negative way. So we have to remake sense of the world. So when you have the trauma, things feel bad, you're in pain. But when you have the psychedelics added to it, you can access that pain, and it's not from the logic brain, right? Because it's something else. And they found that like somatics, EMDR, psychedelics, these access different parts of the brain where traditional talk therapies don't work. So that's why, like I said, like parts work, EMDR, which is like the either you can do it with the eye movements or the bilateral tapping, not this kind of tapping, it's the left-right action. Which is why like walking and even exercise, but that left-right movement, that's part of why I think it's so soothing, because you're activating both parts of the brain. Right? Which can provide a real safety, right? If you're not used to feeling those feelings, back to like going in the walk, feeling the feelings. And so with psychedelics, you're accessing the feelings and it's not feeling so bad. Like there's a way it can feel good. And that's the way we want, that's the goal we want to get to with that, like I said, that self-regulation, my ability to support my own feelings, that's where we want to get to. And the more that you have that ability to see your emotions with that lens of curiosity and joy and beauty, it becomes a whole different experience with what's happened in life, right? And this is all towards like, secure attachment, like back what I spoke at the beginning, intimacy. These are really new ways of thinking and being in the world. It didn't exist in our parents' generation. Like this is a whole new thing. So we can't fault the parents. This is just like evolutionary, like what's happening and like how we're understanding the world. Did I express that like clear enough?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, the key takeaway for me with the psychedelics, the way you explained it, is it sounds like it's almost removing the pain in a sense of the feeling, or decreasing the pain of the feeling that you don't want to feel, so that you can actually go there and feel it.
It's removing the resistance to the pain. It's removing the judgment around it. So it's like I can feel it and ride that wave and just be present with it. And then the body metabolizes it and you move forward.
Okay.
Right?
And you may have already explained this, but where does that resistance come from? Is it a fear response?
So remember,
At the core?
you know how I talked way back when about insecure attachment and secure attachment, and how we develop our relationship with our feelings and how our parents are mirroring our experiences and responding to our stress, our distress or ease. We learn what's safe and not safe. So we learn these feelings are okay to feel, these ones aren't okay to feel.
Okay, so this goes all the way back to when we're like less than 7 years old, learning how mom and dad interact with each other and with us.
It goes
Or
back
even
to
further.
the womb. It goes back, it's intergenerational.
Okay.
It's never, and they found like right around attachment systems, like one of the biggest factors of all is intergenerational. And so back to psychedelics, I know I wanted to hit upon like why you want to do that with a therapist is because the therapist is helping guide you into those experiences of pain, and also in a supportive way to help you keep coming at them and knowing where to go when you're out of the psychedelic therapy, which we're not supposed to be on all the time. Otherwise, our brains would be like that. This is not the point.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have inhibitors of in our brains, which help us live in this material world. If we weren't supposed to have them, they wouldn't be in our brains. And so the deal is, once you've had the psychedelic experience, then you're more easily apt to go revisit those areas of trauma and access the feelings of grief, right? Maybe abandonment and joy and the whole thing, and kind of see it as these waves that kind of come through our bodies and flow through us, that we can be there with less judgment. We're able to access the feelings better, the healings and the feeling, and also access more flexible brain versus the rigid brain that's like, this is bad, this is the only thing, where it's like, there's really maybe more to the story. Like these are all just pieces of the puzzle, all are essential versus one part. And then what you do is you want to you'll remember if you've ever done it, like, how did that feel in my body? And you can just click back into that same feeling, you know?
Okay, so is it teaching the body or the brain or both that teaching it to be more conscious of its inhibitors and that it's okay to go through those inhibitors? Is that what it's teaching ultimately?
Well, I'm not sure that we're saying it. When I'm talking about inhibitors, I mean like we have actual inhibitors in our brain that are like think of like a horse has blinders. Like we have them that just make us see reality versus like when you do shrooms, you might be seeing shapes and things that like I'm not attuned to right now in this state without the shrooms. That's what I mean by inhibitors.
Okay.
I'm thinking you might mean like those protective responses?
Probably. I guess kind of what I'm saying is using the psychedelic therapy, it allows the body to kind of have a conscious experience of going someplace where it feels unsafe and processing that.
Yes,
And
it might not feel so unsafe.
Exactly. And so when we're not under the influence of the psychedelic treatment, the body and the mind now has a conscious process that it knows that it's safer, maybe not safe, but safer to go there without the therapy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, okay, let's bring it back to sports. If you're, I don't know, you're trying to be the kicker on the football team, but you've never had a successful goal, right? And then one day you have it, and you're like, oh my gosh, maybe even the coach has been giving you instruction after instruction. You're like, I don't know, I'm just still kicking the ball, and you don't know when you're hitting it in, and when it just kind of happens. And then one day you're like, oh, that just felt right. I felt the way I moved. I felt everything the coach was saying. Now I understand, and I can feel it in my body. So that's the same thing. And that's back to that somatic piece. So why we always want all of that to fire, because that's giving, like, our body is giving us thousands of pieces of information just right now.
Yep.
And we've become experts at attuning to only certain ones. And those are the ones that helped us to survive. Well, that's not good for efficiency and optimal flow state. We've got to be attuned to those other pieces that will help us thrive. And that's where, like, we want to have access to all those feelings versus just certain ones that we become attuned to. So, like, the players, like, only, right, his brain has become rigid only around certain experiences. And part of the experience is, I can never meet the one. I can never meet the one. It's like part of the whole story.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That's really cool that you're able to share this with me, because like so many things are clicking as to like what I'm seeing with my guys.
Like what?
There's just been little instances through this entire conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like you can explain it in a much more technical way than I can, but I've experienced exactly what you're talking about, either with myself or with my clients. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, okay, now I know the mechanics in a sense of why things work the way they do. I sense it, I feel it, I know how to get them to change, but like now I'm like, oh, okay, this is the machine. This is how the machine works.
Yeah. And all of it, like all of those sides are useful, right? Like it sounds like you have like a good gut instinct on certain things. And, I kind of believe like in essence in the way we feel, like we're all just kind of speaking different languages around the same thing. Like how many of us are really saying that different of a thing?
Totally.
It's just more like, and maybe, I often find like what works best to really, like people who I see like really like make loads of progress are usually working consistently with multiple people. And that's because because even though you and I are saying the same thing, my tone of voice compared to your tone of voice, your language compared to mine, we might be saying, we could even be saying the exact same thing. And we have a client right there. And then the client comes to me, it's like, oh, Jacqueline, Dave said this thing the other day. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've told you that like 25 times.
Yeah, so, yes.
But they got it. And the reason it works with multiple people is because the brain never gets too used to something where it could like dull me out because it's gotten used to predicting certain things, whereas then the same person hears it from you and it's like, oh, I just heard it, or they've heard it enough times but in enough different ways that it starts to click in.
Click.
Yes.
In the coaching, and I'm sure in a therapeutic setting, it can get frustrating because you feel like you're not getting the result that this person wants to get, and you want to get it for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're finally like, I've said, like you exactly like you said, I've been through this many times. I've said that to you like 35 times in the past 2 days. And then, but it's cool. Like they finally get it, and you're just like, awesome. Like, yeah. And that's interesting. And I see certain people process it in different ways.
Yeah.
Some people like, boom, really quick. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Other people like, yeah, you got to hit them in different ways, and then they finally like, oh, yeah, okay.
Because we have to remember those protectors within us are all operating right at different levels of protection, right? And those walls are been thrown up in multiple ways, right? So all of those things are going to be factors. And going back to like okay, so this is like the trajectory for progress. Okay. It might feel like a little good at first, but actually it's going to feel bad for a really long time. And you're going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is all crazy. You're going to become ambivalent and apathetic. Or maybe if you run anxious, you're going to be like, why isn't this working sooner? Which is how I was with artistic swimming. And then I was like, okay, I just got to put in even more hours and I'm at the pace where I'm at the pace. This is the same. For those disorganized attachers, it might be, you got to watch for your protectors. All in, then all out, right? So oftentimes we see that, right? We'll hit those windows of tolerance that maybe it's just before the breakthrough happens. No, I think I'm done. I don't want to do this. Or I bought that book and I don't know, I read a page and, or everything they said made sense and no, I don't want to do it. Or this is the answer. And then when you're not having those immediate results, or maybe it even is working. I was thinking the other day about how many people I was taking this tea that my acupuncturist had recommended. And then she told me the stuff, and I went out and bought the stuff to make it before I got the little packets from her. And so I got all the stuff to make it. And then I was like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. And I was like, why would you stop? You bought all the ingredients. I bought it because I loved the tea. I was like, I need to make this tea all the time. And it was just my own apathy said it. Everything was working. I even thought maybe I shouldn't go back to acupuncture. And I was like, Jacqueline, you've just done all this work. Your body feels great. But now you want to stop. That's that window of tolerance of joy. Oh, I'm feeling good, but then I just going to stop.
I do the exact same thing. And it takes a while to break that.
Yes.
And actually be like, oh, okay. And actually kind of find the joy in what it is you're doing to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
My physical health journey has been an awful one. Mm-hmm. And I've been through a lot of stuff. I can't eat a lot of things, but that's getting better because I just keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah. And I go through that process of oh, this is working. Oh, I'm going to stop doing it. Oh, this is working. I'm going to stop doing it. Every single layer. And I finally have gotten to a place look, I just have to be committed to this if I really want to get the internals healed up and get on with my life. And so that's where I'm at. But it's taken years to get here.
So this work is the same,
yep.
Right? You can't, sure, if you're already operating at a really high level, but I do this work every day on myself, and it's never ending because there's always new competing factors in life. Stuff is thrown in my path every day, which even can be I didn't get enough sleep today. Maybe I didn't eat enough carbs, so my brain's not getting enough glucose, and so there's that. And then maybe, I don't know, my partner was in a bad mood and, kind of projected some of his feelings onto me. And then, I don't know, I got a stressful work email. All of these things are going to play into how I'm able to suss out, are my protectors running the show and what can I do about them? And so we're all going to have those cycles, and the window of tolerance, the limit that we're going to hit. And then we might just step away. So the trajectory of success is know that. And so this is where the athlete is you just have to commit to just keep doing it. And sometimes maybe you're doing it for 2 minutes a day, and sometimes you're practicing being with self for 20 minutes a day, and you fall off for weeks, we'll just start again.
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like, and yeah, it'll be painful when you start again, and you will have forgotten where and you will get back there. But you just have to keep going, because this stuff is so embedded in our systems, and we just got to do it. Otherwise, you're just not going to have what you want. And like that's it. There's no. I mean, there is no sexy drug to fix that. Like, it just doesn't exist.
There is none. There is none. You have to be committed to the cause and like keep working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. How's your book coming along?
My book it's almost done.
Cool.
I've been working on it for a few years.
Excellent.
So yeah, we'll see what happens, but some big stuff this month, dealing with publishers, et cetera. And so
Not always easy.
we'll see what happens with that, but I'm feeling really good about it. The whole system, it's 5 simple principles with examples that are hopefully very easy. My goal was just simple language, easy to take in, direct, clear, hopefully easy to understand, and easily applicable, because I felt like a lot of the books on the marketplace, they're just going around in circles saying the same thing. I mean, I'll read them and I'm like, halfway through, I don't want to read anymore. The whole point is like, can I dial this down to like 4 agreements small? Like that small, that simple, kind of like, if all else fails, what do? I know I need to stay consistent. I know I need to acknowledge my feelings, feel them, and support them, right? Like these kind of like basic things.
Yeah.
Like if I have that, you just keep doing it, it will happen, right? So that's the point.
So it sounds like in the book, you're really helping people build a solid foundation to always work from, even if they're not consistent.
Well, consistency is one of the principles. Gotta work with that little protector that's gonna sabotage you from what you want. And my goal is I just want people to, feel happy, right? And we all want that from the secure state. We might want that so badly. And then our protector comes up to sabotage, right? And so the first step is being aware that the protector is up to sabotage, because it's pretty hard to work with it if you're not even aware that it's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, are you writing 2 different editions, one for men, one for women?
Yes.
Oh,
The man
wow.
one ready to go quicker, but the women's not far behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe they go to, we'll see what happens. But
Now, is this going to be a self-publish kind of thing? Okay, so you're going to go through a publisher.
hopefully,
Will people be able to find it on Amazon or where?
hopefully they'll be able to find it everywhere.
Okay. All right.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
That's the goal. That's
Excellent.
The goal.
Well, I'll definitely check it out when it comes out. What kind of like time frame are we looking at here?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have friends that have just recently done books, and it is a long and
It's
drawn
long.
out process.
Yeah. And somehow it's like, all this stuff, learning to become secure, to have those relationships, it's only experiential. So no matter how much you listen to this stuff, you have to just go do the work. And writing the book was the same way. Of course, I knew it was going to take a while. Until I got into it, I was like, oh, that's that. Okay, it's a whole different experience. Yeah. As usually is the case, not what I signed up for. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
figuring it out and,
Yeah.
working with my own protectors, et cetera.
I feel I agree 100% with what you say, and I feel like social media does a lot of people no justice when it comes to how difficult this type of work is. To first acknowledge that you need to do it, second that you want to do it, and third to actually do it. I feel like social media puts this idea out there that people don't have any of these problems, that they don't need to worry about this stuff. They just need to go make money, find the hot guy, find a hot girl, and life is going to be good. But we know that that is the furthest thing from the truth, and that the real work, the real change starts with like what you do, what I do, to actually make a real change in your life and live an amazing life.
Well, it's like, I mean, social media is really a mixed bag, because I was thinking as you were speaking, I was like, my experience around it is I feel like many people are like I think the awareness around the distress is so much higher, like it's very different than when I was growing up. Like people, I have many clients in their 20s, like who, had far more awareness than I did at that age about what they're experiencing. And it's so easy to fall into the trap. I've done it too, okay? I'm not judging. The trap of like, I just will go down this rabbit hole and like that'll give me like the answer. Because on some level, it's like something like that piece of, oh, like that felt good, right? It's giving you like that dopamine hit. Feels like good in the moment. So you are getting some satisfaction off of it and you can't discount that. But that's not the whole thing. It's like if you're just relying on distraction as your tool, to, like, which many of us are like expert distractors, but until you have that self and co-regulation, like your ability to be with yourself and share vulnerably with others, like nothing is going to change.
Yep. I love it. That's good. I'm really happy with this. It was fantastic. Where can people find you?
So my website is theattachmentspecialist.com, and I'm also on TikTok and Instagram, the same, The Attachment Specialist.
Excellent. All right. And then I will obviously put all that in the description for people to find you. Jacqueline, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Thank you.
Really good stuff.
So fun.
It was awesome.